Good afternoon. I'm Jillian Black, and welcome to the Department of Family and Support Services, the Chicago Legal Protection Fund 2.0, Community Outreach and Navigation. Just a few housekeeping rules. Because we are recording this webinar, everyone has been placed on mute. Please submit questions via the question box, and we will respond to questions at the end and midpoint of the presentation. Please use the question box to notify us of any technical issues. The information presented during this webinar is not intended to change the solicitation document. Any changes will be in the form of writing of in an addendum issued by the Department of Family and Support Services. The purpose of this webinar is to provide information for the solicitation. A copy of this recording will be posted on the DFSS YouTube channel with the link to the recording, and a PDF of these PowerPoint slides will be posted to the DFS webpage at www.chicago under the Alerts and/or Funding Opportunity tabs. Please give it up to 5 business days to upload. DFSS retains the right to share a list of registrants to this webinar, along with their contact and organizational information at our discretion. Joining me today is Mark Sanders II, Deputy Commissioner, here to provide details for this RFP and to answer any questions you may have regarding this RFP. We just did the welcome and introductions. Now we're going to go into the purpose of this RFP, the background, information about the scope and program description, the selection criteria, timeline, technical assistance for applicants and e-procurement, and then one last round for questions. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Jillian. Purpose of the RFP of the Legal Protection Fund Community Outreach and Navigation RFP is to identify a lead organization for community outreach and navigation, which will be responsible for all activities outlined in the RFP. Background. The Office of New Americans, now named the Office of Immigrant, Migrant, and Refugee Rights, was established in July 2011 with a commitment to improving the everyday experiences of the city's then 560,000 foreign-born residents. The Office of Immigration, Migrant, and Refugee Rights is dedicated to improving services and engaging Chicago's diverse immigrant and refugee communities through enhanced collaboration with community organizations, academic institutions, and the private sector. Goals. The ideal respondent to this RFP will function as a community outreach and navigation partner who takes information about legal services and other available supports directly into Chicago communities, especially those with high concentrations of foreign-born households. Current state and priorities for improvement. Since the program was created, the Community Outreach and Navigation Services have been coordinated by a single lead agency. In 2023, they recruited and trained 88 new community navigators, made 1,449 Know Your Rights presentations to over 59,000 attendees. They made 400 referrals for legal screenings and accompanied over 2,000 residents. For this RFP, respondents must demonstrate how they will continue to serve migrants from Latin American countries while expanding outreach to immigrants and refugees within the city of Chicago from Asian, Middle Eastern, African, and European countries to ensure that undocumented residents from these countries have access to available resources and legal services. Target population. The target population of the Legal Protection Fund is immigrants that live in the city of Chicago without regard to refugee status, documented residency, or citizenship status. Program requirements. DFSS seeks applications from agencies that can successfully engage immigrants residing in the city of Chicago from a wide variety of regions across a wide range of countries and continents. DFSS is particularly looking for agencies that can design and implement educational outreach and referral strategies. The community outreach and navigation provider will identify and partner with community-based organizations to recruit, train, and organize community navigators to conduct outreach to immigrants, accompany them to various services, equip them with information about their rights under the law, pre-plan for the potential of a deportation crisis, and inform immigrants of the various other forms of immigration relief. Respondents must also demonstrate the capacity to work with local community-based organizations to provide effective outreach and immigrant workshops in a clear, accessible, and culturally appropriate way. Direct referrals to legal partners and other supports, recruit and train new community navigators, and this is a total of new and existing community navigators, 200 for the year. Conduct a total of 300 workshops each year and make a minimum of 480 referrals per year to the selected Chicago Legal Protection Fund legal service provider. Respondent must be able to distinguish what services are provided by what funding source in their monthly reports. Performance goals and outcomes. DFSS will monitor a set of annual outcome metrics that may include, but are not limited to, 400 referrals to the selected Chicago Legal Protection Fund legal service provider, 1,400 total referrals and accompaniments for housing, health, mental health, employment, educational services, and other supports. DFSS also intends to track annual output metrics that may include, but are not limited to, 240 community navigators trained each year. Those include new and returning navigators. 300 immigrant education presentations provided. 20,000 attendees present at in-person immigrant education presentations, and 12 presentations to the Chicago Welcomes You Task Force. DFSS will also monitor the selected outcome and output metrics by race, ethnicity, gender, country of origin, age, and other characteristics as appropriate to track equity in outcomes and outputs. Selection criteria. Here is the criteria we will use with regard to the proposals that are submitted. We will be reviewing based on community involvement. Here, we want to know if the respondent demonstrates a clear understanding of the focus populations and their strengths, assets, needs, and challenges. Does the respondent has the respondent developed the relevant capabilities and/or infrastructure needed to serve the focus populations? Does the respondent have the systems in place to collect and incorporate client feedback to improve service delivery? Does the respondent demonstrate a proactive commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and access to legal services? Does the respondent's leadership reflect and engage the diverse people of the community it serves? Next criteria, organizational capacity. Here we will determine, does the respondent have the qualified staff responsible for all required service components? Does the respondent have adequate capacity and an identified strategy to hire and manage staff, including temporary or subcontracted staff? Next criteria, strength of proposed program. Does the respondent propose an outreach and education plan that addresses barriers for the focus population and share information in a clear, accessible, and culturally appropriate way? Does the respondent demonstrate experience providing community outreach to immigrants? Does the respondent propose strategies and a program that is based on best practices for the field? Does the respondent propose a plan for the management, coordination, and monitoring of outreach and education to the focus populations? Next criteria, performance management and outcomes. Does the respondent demonstrate experience in collecting, storing, protecting personal identifying information and other sensitive information? Does the respondent have experience leveraging data to improve its service or practices? Does the respondent demonstrate evidence of strong past performance against desired outcome goals and performance metrics, and/or other notable accomplishments in providing services to the focus population? Finally, reasonable costs, budget justification, and leverage of funds. Here we are determining, does the respondent have the cash flow and fiscal capacity to implement the proposed program prior to reimbursement? Does the respondent have adequate systems and processes to support monitoring program expenditures and fiscal controls? Does the respondent demonstrate reasonable implementation costs and funding requests relative to its financial and human resources? The next selection criteria has to do with the attachments and supporting documentation for the proposal. Be sure to attach reports, studies, or other documentation that show performance toward reaching the performance program goals. Demonstrate results and accomplishments. Be sure to attach the resumes for key staff that are overseeing the program. Finally, make sure to attach your organization's budget for the program. And within that budget, make sure all program requirements are addressed. The evaluation process. All proposals will be evaluated on the strengths of the proposal and the responsiveness to the selection criteria. Failure to submit a complete proposal or respond fully to all requirements may make your submission subject to rejection. The Commissioner of DFSS, upon review of recommended agencies, in this case we are selecting one agency, may reject, deny, or recommend agencies that have applied for grants based on previous performance and/or area need. DFSS reserves the right to ensure that all mandated services are available citywide and provided in a linguistically and culturally appropriate manner. Selection and transition timeline. The proposal, the RFP, was released on October 2nd. Today is the pre-proposal webinar, October 7, 2024. Due date to submit any pre-proposal questions is October 11, 2024. Applications are due October 30, 2024. And the program is scheduled to begin January 1, 2025. With regards to budgets or cost proposals, please submit a budget for 1 year. That's 12 months of services. Cost category definitions are attached as budget instructions in every RFP. Be thoughtful and inclusive when developing your budget. Apply for your program's actual costs. We generally cannot give you more money than what you ask. Therefore, use the reasonable cost question on the application to discuss how you determine the costs reflected in the budget. Some budget proposals or cost proposals, some common errors that we see on budgets are fringes. Please check your calculations. Supplies. These are frequently under or over budgeted. Client assistance. If this is appropriate and if this is an appropriate and allowable cost for your program, do not forget to include it. Make sure your job description titles and your job description uploads have the same title. Also, put a brief description of the job in the budget document itself, if you have not discussed it specifically in your application. Put your budget in the appropriate column and show your match. Finally, as I mentioned previously, applications are due on October 30, 2024 at 12 p.m. Central Time.
Thanks, Mark. I see we don't have any questions right now, but we will pause for another round of questions at the end of the webinar. I'm going to go into application tips and how to accept amendments. So my first application tip is to start your application as early as possible and to save it as early as possible. If you have never done business with the city of Chicago, register to iSupplier ASAP. Review RFP narratives and the application questions closely. Remember, they align with the scope and the selection criteria. Please use the information in the RFP for guidance in formulating your answers. There's a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces. Each response is allotted 4,000 characters. And please, whatever you do, do not use the back button on your browser. To submit multiple applications for a single RFP, applicants will need to set up a unique user account in iSupplier. The e-procurement system is not capable of submitting more than one distinct proposal per associated email address. You can submit your application and later amend it up until the due date of October 30th, 2024 at 12 noon. Avoid the rush and possible mishaps by submitting early. Plan on submission taking approximately 30 to 60 minutes. Please be advised that late applications will not and cannot be accepted. You can make use of the e-procurement hotline for help at 312-744-4357. Please note that the hotline operates during business hours only, which are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. And again, we can't stress it enough to save your application as often as you can and submit as early as possible. Just a few agency requirements. Agencies must provide articles of incorporation and any amended articles of incorporation. An IRS affirmation letter is also required. This is for not-for-profit agencies only. This letter must be dated within 60 days of submission. You can obtain this by calling the IRS directly at 1-877-829-5500. If you are a for-profit agency, submit your original letter from the IRS showing your FEIN number. A UEI number is also required for your agency, as well as essential contractor registration. Provide a copy of the entity overview page on the www.sam.gov website. And lastly, a certificate of good standing letter with the state of Illinois is also required. As of April of this year, we have a new labor peace agreement ordinance, which will apply to all DFSS and CDPH delegates that have 20 or more employees working for their organization. The only exemption is that it does not apply to hospitals. Contractor must provide written notice to the commissioner or her designee within 72 hours of becoming aware that employees want to organize or that a union seeks to represent employees. Contractor must enter into an LPA within 90 days of receiving notice that a labor organization that it represents or seeks to represent employees. You may ask, what is an LPA? An LPA is an agreement between an employer and a labor union that ensures that an organizing drive is not impacted by union busting techniques, including employee retaliation, and in return, they will not strike or stop work in a way that will impact human services. For technical assistance, on the DFSS webpage, there is a link to the RFP of interest and training documents, or there will be a link to the RFP under the alerts section on our website. For questions on registration and e-procurement technical assistance for delegate agencies, please reach out to customer support at cityofchicago.org. And they also can be reached via phone at 312-744-4357. And we also have documents and videos and other training materials on the website as well under online training materials. Entering responses and accepting the amendment. Step 1, you select Create Quote from the drop-down menu in the Actions box and click on Go. This will take you to the application page where you can get started. Before I go any further, I just want to let all potential applicants know that the e-procurement system has received an uplift, or otherwise known as an update. So it might look a little different from what you see here, but it's essentially the same information. But if you have any questions, if it's too hard to navigate, please reach out to customer support, or you can also reach out to me and I can help in any way that I can. So back to how to enter a response. You select the Create Quote from the drop-down menu in the Actions box and then click on Go. This should take you to the application page where you can get started. In the RFP, if the RFP you are interested in has been amended, you will need to acknowledge and accept the amendment to start and submit a response. To accept the amendment, click on View Amendment History. Step 2, to begin the acceptance and acknowledgement process, follow these steps after clicking View Amendment History. Number 1, you click on the document number. Next, you click on the infinity or eyeglass icon to review the amended changes to the RFP. Next, you click on the Acknowledge Amendments button to acknowledge the receipt and understanding of these changes and then proceed. By acknowledging the amendment, you are indicating that you are aware of the changes made to the RFP in the document. When you get to this screen, click on the I accept checkbox and then click on Acknowledge. Next, you click on Yes to indicate that you confirm your acknowledgement of the amendment. Finally, you click on the checkbox that you accept the terms and conditions, and then you click on Accept to actually accept them. And that is the final step in acknowledging and accepting the amendment. Next, we're going to delve into how to submit your application. When you are ready to submit, start by saving your draft one last time and then clicking Continue. If you are missing information, you will be given an error message at the top of the page. Usually the error message directs to something left undone in the application. In the last example, the error message indicated that the lines found under the Lines tab had not been filled out. In this example, the error is about an unanswered question in the application or requirements section. The quote value refers to your, in this case, your missing answer. Once your application is free from errors, you are ready to proceed and submit. At this point, clicking Continue should push your application into the review and submit phase. And this is, when you get to this screen, this will be your last chance to review all of your data and confirm that it's accurate. Check your attachments and scroll to the bottom of the screen to see all of your responses. And then at the bottom of the screen, you will be asked to provide an electronic signature. Please be sure to fill in that signature box before checking the box. And then lastly, you scroll to the bottom of the page and you click Submit. Make sure that you see this submission confirmation screen. The e-procurement system will send a confirmation email within 24 hours of your submission. Please call or email me if you desire confirmation prior to then, and I can provide that for you. Any questions? And again, the question deadline isn't until the 11th. So if you have any questions or you need any information regarding the program, please reach out to Mark Sanders. He can be contacted at mark.sanders2@cityofchicago.org. And then for non-programmatic questions, if you have any questions regarding e-procurement or how to submit your application, you can always reach out to the e-procurement hotline. Their hours are Monday through Friday. They're open from 9 to 5 p.m. And their number is 312-744-4357. And they also can be reached via email at customersupport@cityofchicago.org. And you can also reach out to me. My name is Jillian Black, and my email is jillian.black@cityofchicago.org. Mark, is there anything you want to add?
No, thank you. And if you have any questions, as Jillian mentioned, please email those so we can ensure they are included in any amendments to the RFP. And also please get those submitted by October 11. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone for attending our webinar, and enjoy the rest of your day.